What's up, guys? Welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Ordell, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to play the Nimzo-Indian, a very strong response to the move d4. And first off, shout out to my guy Topon for recommending that I do this opening, guys. The Nimzo-Indian is honestly one of the strongest, oldest, most well-known, most seasoned, most analyzed, just overall most used openings in the game of chess from players, that just began to elite grandmasters over the decades. But here the opening itself starts off with knight f6, and following c4 we now play e6, and after knight c3 we play bishop b4, activating the bishop and putting some pressure on that knight on c3. And guys, in today's video I'm going to try my best to give you a full repertoire of this opening. Now we're going to go in depth into each variation, not super in depth though, because I don't want you guys to be here for 2 weeks, but I am going to show you guys a bunch of different options here for white, including a3, bishop d2, e3, the normal line. Yes guys, this is actually called the normal line. That is the name of that opening. We'll also go over the Leningrad variation, which is bishop g5. We'll go over the classical variation, which is queen c2. And we'll go over the three knights variation, which is knight f3. We're going to show you guys how to respond to each one of these moves. And guys, this will probably be one of my longer chess opening videos. I really just want to give you guys a strong opening repertoire against d4 and really just set you guys up to play this system. I also do recommend, over time, maybe come back every week or two. And if you are serious about playing the Nimzo-Indian Defense, I really recommend you guys watch this video at least a few times to really understand the lines, concepts, moves, and ideas. The first move that we're going to go over, and this is actually my favorite move to play against, is the move a3. Now a3 is a very logical move. I mean, we just played bishop b4. Why not play a3 and attack our bishop? It seems like a very logical option. However, against the move a3, we're now going to play bishop takes c3, and after b takes c3, play b6. Now, many of you have probably heard of Roman Dingy-Hashvili, one of the top chess coaches of all time. And here he actually recommends the system I'm about to show you. It's a very unique idea, and basically it comes out of the following moves. Here white will usually play a move like f3. There's no knight here, so white can't immediately play e4. So here white's going to play f3 to support that pawn e4 push. And against f3, we're now going to play bishop a6, activating the bishop and putting some pressure on that weak c4 pawn. Guys, our target of attack in this line is to go after the c4 pawn. Now let's say e4 is played. We're now going to play knight c6, and after a move like e5, we're going to play knight g8. We're totally okay with this. We'll eventually reroute our knight to e7, and following a move like bishop d3, we're now going to play knight a5. We're going to put our bishop on a6 and knight on a5, looking to attack that very weak pawn on c4. Now let's say white plays a move like queen a4. I mean, white in this position really has to find a way to defend that pawn. White can either play queen e2 or queen a4. But in either case, I mean, let's just look at queen a4. We're next going to play queen c8, guys. We're not done attacking that pawn on c4. We're going to play queen c8. And after a move like bishop e4, we can play c6. But guys, really our idea with queen c8 is to play c5. We're going to want to play c5, take on d4, and then win the pawn on c4. But let's take a look at the move bishop e4. Well, as I mentioned, we're now going to play c6, and after bishop d3, notice how bishop d3 is kind of forced here. We have a knight and a bishop attacking the pawn on c4, so the bishop really doesn't have a choice but to just go back and defend the pawn. And now we can play c5, and after a move like knight e2, we can snatch that pawn off the board, win the pawn on c4, and black is clearly better. I do want to mention that after bishop e4, Roman Dingy-Hashvili's recommendation was to actually play bishop takes c4. Idea being, after bishop takes a8, we can take the bishop and then bring the queen to d5. We have a very strong hole on the light squares here. We totally have b3 available, and I actually, guys, think that black is slightly better in this position. I mean, I would much rather be black here than white, But at the same time, I honestly do think that after bishop e4, I mean, why not just play it safe? Play a move like c6. We're still attacking that pawn. And after bishop d3, we're still going to get our c5 idea in. We're just not going to lose the rook for the bishop. And even in this case, we're still going to end up winning the pawn on c4. I mean, I do want to mention too, after c5, white could play a move like d5. But after d5, we're then able to take on d5, and c takes d5 can't be played because the bishop on d3 would fall. So guys, that covers the move a3. Let's next take a look at the move e3 with the normal line. Now this is white's most popular option, and against e3, you're going to see black's usual style of play with the move b6. Guys, this b6 option is critical in this variation. We want to put our bishop on b7 and activate it, putting pressure on that weak pawn on g2. And after a move like bishop d3, we're now going to play bishop b7, threatening to take that pawn. And after knight f3, we're going to castle kingside, and next take the knight on c3. And then we're going to continue with d6, followed by knight bd7. Notice, guys, how it doesn't really matter what white does. It can't really stop black from doing what we're doing right now. And after knight d2, we're going to play the move e5. So, guys, you know, in the normal variation with e3, and really, guys, against most of these openings, you can always utilize this normal plan of attack. Fianchetto the bishop by playing b6 and bishop b7, play d6, knight bd7, push the pawn to e5, and next we're going to play a move like queen e7, and we're just playing chess. Guys, let's next take a look at the move bishop d2. Now, you know, guys, I really don't like bishop d2 from white's perspective. I think it's too just passive. You know, it doesn't really do much. And, you know, strategically, it does make some sense. I mean, white is not wanting to double the pawns on c3. But here after bishop d2, we can simply take the knight. And after bishop takes c3, play knight e4. And here after queen c2, we can snatch the bishop off the board. And after castling, guys, I mean, honestly, this position is dead even. We've already traded off two minor pieces. Black has just castled kingside, and black also has no real weaknesses to show. In fact, black has only moved one pawn to e6. So yes, guys, white doesn't really have any weaknesses either, but if I was white, you know, this is not what I'm looking for, is a dead even position with black castling kingside. Let's say white plays e3. Well, then we can go on with our usual plan of d6, followed by knight d7, and after knight f3, we could then play b6, bishop b7, and here after castles, we can play a move like a5. I mean, guys, playing a5 is also, you know, an idea that I think you guys want to keep in mind, because usually white will want to advance on the queen side of the board with a move like b4, but here, if the move b4 is played, we can now take, and after queen takes b4, play queen e7, followed by, say, e5. And, you know, I think, guys, that black has really good control of e5, c5, and a5, not to mention a really strong bishop on b7, attacking that g2 pawn. And I like black's game here. So after a5, it's probably not best for white to play b4. And after a move like bishop f3, I actually like this bishop f3 move from white. I mean, guys, this bishop on b7 is just so strong, you know, compared to the bishop on e2. And in chess, if one of your pieces isn't as active as one of your opponent's pieces, why not trade off? So here we have bishop f3, and next we're going to take that bishop, play a move like queen e7. We have e5 ideas, eventual f5 ideas, maybe even f4. We have c5 ideas. Black has a lot of flexibility here, and I would honestly put the position at dead even. So guys, just to recap that, if bishop d2, we're going to take on c3, play knight e4, take the bishop on c3, develop our pieces, and I think we have a dead even game. What about the move bishop g5 with the Leningrad variation? Well, against the Leningrad, you know, we could go with the usual bishop takes c3 or b6, even d5. But here I personally, and yeah, this is the aggressive player coming out of me, but I like the move c5. Guys, this creates a huge imbalance in the position, and black has a lot of attacking chances here. First off, we're playing c5, putting pressure on the pawn on d4 and the knight on c3. And guys, computer programs on move 4 in this position have the position at dead even. We're going to go over the move d5, but let's first answer the question, why is d takes c5 a bad move? Now, white might be tempted to do this, but I really like black's game after this. We're now able to play the dynamic move, knight a6. And yes, guys, usually the knight on the rim is dim, but here our knight is attacking the pawn on c5 without giving up the pressure we already have on the knight on c3. And after a move like e4, we can take the knight. Notice how white has an isolated pawn and tripled isolated pawns now. And, you know, we could take the pawn back, but instead we're going to play h6, kicking the bishop back to f4. And then we're going to play queen a5, putting pressure on c3 and c5. And the knight on f6 is also attacking the pawn on e4. So after knight e2 is played, we're able to take on e4. And guys, white's position is not far from completely falling apart. So d takes c5 is definitely not white's best option. What about d5? Well, after d5, black can continue with a move like h6, and then after bishop h4, play d6. We're going to continue to castle kingside, and after a move like bishop d3, we can then take on d5. And after c takes d5, I like black's game here. I mean, the safe move is knight b d7, and black has a solid game after this. I mean, black can bring the knight to d7, to e5, and I do like black's game in that position. I personally kind of like the move g5, and you know, I understand that many of you probably wouldn't be comfortable with this. The main idea is that after bishop g3, we can take on d5, and now we're a pawn ahead. We both have the bishop and the knight, putting pressure on that knight on c3, so white has to play knight e2, in which case we continue to develop with knight c6. And here black is up a pawn, but obviously has some weaknesses with h6 and g5. So, you know, guys, I totally understand if you're not comfortable with playing g5. g5 is kind of risky. You get, you know, a pawn in return for your king being a little vulnerable. The more safe option is just to play knight b d7, and after a move like knight e2, we can then play knight e5, and after castles, here we can continue with knight g6, followed by, say, knight h5, and this position is also very playable and very winnable for black, and black performs very well in this variation. So guys, against bishop g5 with Leningrad, we're going to play c5 and play hyper-modern dynamic chess. What about the move queen c2? I mean, this has a pretty similar idea to bishop d2, except now the queen is defending the knight on c3. I personally, in this position, usually just castle kingside and just play natural developmental chess. Some of you may have seen my video on the 4 rules of opening chess, and just super briefly, basically what we want to do in chess is put a pawn in the center, castle to one side or the other, let the rooks see each other. So right now, there's 3 pieces in the way, so we're going to have to develop our queen, bishop, and knight. And lastly, we're going to want to point a rook towards the opponent's king or queen. So guys, castling kingside, you know, basically finishes the second rule or step of the opening, and that's usually why I play it here. And I'll leave that video down in the description below for those of you that think you might enjoy that. And you guys, usually here against queen c2, white will play the move a3. Usually white goes with queen c2 so that after bishop takes c3, white can take the bishop and not have double pawns. And here we're totally okay with taking the knight. And after queen takes c3, we're now going to play knight e4. And after queen c2, I think that here the most popular option is f5. And I really do like this f5 move. It creates a huge imbalance, almost kind of Dutch-like imbalance in this game. We have a very strong knight on e4, and f3 can't be played to kick the knight off because queen h4 with check would just finish the game off. So here after a move like e3, we're now going to play more dynamic chess with c5, and after bishop d3, play knight c6. Now some of you are probably wondering, wait, aren't we just giving up the knight? Well, white could take this knight, but I don't recommend it. After bishop takes e4, we could then take the bishop, and after queen takes e4, then play d5. White is up a pawn, but is not going to hold on to that pawn for very long. After a move like queen d3, we could then take on d4, and then take on c4. And after a move like queen takes c4, we could, play a move like queen takes d4, but instead we're going to go for attacking chess with knight a5, followed by queen d5. I mean, guys, look at this centralized queen attacking the pawn on g2 and also putting pressure on that b3 square, readying the knight to play that disastrous move. After f3, we're going to play knight b3. Beautiful move here, supported by a queen. And here, guys, I just don't think that white has much hope. I mean, let's just look at this position for a second. After rook b1, we could then play a move like e5, and white's position is falling apart. I mean, a move like knight e2 would just fall to bishop f5, attacking the queen, and then winning the rook on b1, and black is clearly winning this game. So yeah, guys, it might be tempting for white to play the move bishop takes e4, but we're going to take the bishop back, play d5, and play aggressive attacking chess, getting more than enough compensation for the pawn. And after a move like knight e2, we're just going to continue with a move like queen a5 check. And guys, this position is very, very tense. There's, a ton of analysis that could go into the classical variation. Specifically, this position, I think the best move here for white is probably bishop d2, in which we can take the bishop. And after queen takes d2, we could then, we have a couple options here. One of them is to take the queen. We could also play b6, but I personally would probably go with the move queen takes d2, followed by a move like, say, d6 or b6, and we're just playing chess. It is important to mention that after queen a5, bishop d2 is the only move here for white that gives equality. I mean, really any other move here, guys, white's going to fall apart pretty quickly. I mean, let's take a look at knight c3. If knight c3 is played, well, we could take the pawn. And after e takes d4, we have knight takes d4, and white's position is falling apart. So that covers queen c2 with the classical variation. So guys, we have just went over a ton of different lines. I mean, we went over a3, e3, the normal line, bishop d2, bishop g5 with the Leningrad variation, queen c2 with the classical variation. Lastly, guys, right now we're going to go over knight f3 with the 3 knights variation. And guys, there are a bunch of different options here. I mean, we can play d5, we can play c5. I usually, against knight f3, just go with the move b6. And after e3, if the opportunity allows, I play knight e4. Notice how knight takes e4 can't be played because the knight is pinned by the bishop on b4. And after queen c2, we can play bishop b7, supporting our knight on e4. And after bishop d2, we can take on c3 with the bishop, take the bishop, and after queen takes c3, castle kingside, maybe soon play a move like f5. We can also go with our usual d6, knight d7, e5 idea. We're just playing chess, and this position is dead even. So guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video on the Nimzo-Indian Defense. I tried to broadly cover each variation and just give you guys some options going forward against each of, white's most popular moves. Let me know what you thought of this video, and let me know what other chess openings you'd like to see covered on this channel. And guys, if you want to see one of these specific variations even analyzed in more depth, like the Leningrad or classical or 3 knights variation, let me know, and I'll make a video on it. I do appreciate your support, and as always, I'm wishing y'all a great day. Peace. Thanks for watching today's video. If you'd like to watch another one, you can click or tap up here, and I've got a lot more high quality chess content on the way. So if you'd like to subscribe, you can click or tap down here. I really appreciate your support.